The lights illuminated me as I looked at myself in front of the mirror, dressed in my favorite dress. Its silky fabric caressed my skin gently, as if it were destined to belong to me forever. That long dress that reached my ankles, but cheekily revealed an opening on the right side, a little above the knee, was my secret weapon. To conquer my husband's heart once again. Today you are going to eat until you are full, until it comes out of your nostrils, I repeated to myself, letting out a mischievous smile as I adjusted the folds of the dress. My fingers slid gracefully over the neckline, a neckline that struggled to contain the generosity of my forms. I am a woman blessed by nature, with curves that defied any clothing. My indulgent and capricious body remained unchanged no matter how much I ate or didn't eat. I didn't need the hustle and bustle of gyms or the restrictions of diets. My figure remained intact, as if it were sculpted by the gods themselves. This dress has always been my accomplice on nights of conquest, I muttered to myself, as I immersed myself in memories of past encounters, of knowing glances, and shared laughter. The aroma of fresh roses filled the room. It was the second anniversary with my second husband, and every detail, every gesture, resonated with the promise of eternal love that we shared. At that moment, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world, wrapped in the security and affection of that man who had come to fill my life again. I only had eyes for him, his hands and arms were my refuge, his smile my favorite song. However, a shadow of worry crept across the glow of my happiness. My daughter, my most precious treasure, seemed distant, as if she didn't share my excitement for this new chapter in my life. I left my room with a bun on my head, my red wine-colored linen dress, and black high-heeled shoes. Surely if I had been able to see myself, I would have seen an elegant woman with a bright look and a cheerful smile. But then I heard my husband's voice in the kitchen. "You should at least wash the dishes you use," he said. "You should deign to take your clothes out of your room and wash them yourself." In a whisper, my daughter's voice burst into the conversation. "And who are you to come and tell me what I have and don't have to do? Since when do you take my father's right? I knew my father and I know what he was like, and you don't look like him at all. Remember that here you are nothing if not a close friend, because this house is my father's inheritance." My daughter's words hit like a punch in the air charged with tension. I felt my heart beat faster as my husband responded with a strained voice, "So, then this guy is going to stop bringing you food to the house." She was not intimidated. "Well, I don't care what you do. Besides, I can support myself with my job. No one here has asked you to bring things." The discussion was becoming more and more heated, and I found myself caught in the middle, feeling how the happiness I had felt just moments before was crinkling a little at that moment. I loved my husband with all my heart, but I also loved my daughter, and I couldn't let that gap between them grow any wider. I determinedly called my husband's name from the living room. "Honey, are you ready? Remember we have to go." "Yes, I'm ready," he replied, leaving the kitchen with a firm step. Behind him, my daughter still had a look of disdain on her face. I approached her tenderly, trying to calm the storm that was stirring inside her. "Daughter, we'll be back, don't go to sleep too late," I told her in a soft voice. She didn't say anything, just nodded and walked past me, her heavy breathing echoing in the silence of the house. At that moment, I knew that this situation would not be resolved easily, but I was determined to do everything I could to keep us together. The night was bathed in a seductive gloom when we returned home. They were a little more of midnight. My husband still had a bottle in his hand, and his voice hummed a melody that resonated in the air like a knowing whisper. We entered the room, and in a moment of audacity, I said, "Now, darling, let's give free rein to this love that consumes us." I got rid of what was hindering me, releasing my desire and passion for him. He, for his part, stood in front of me with the bottle in hand, and while he looked at me, he took another sip. Then, as if the night had been too long for him, he sat on the edge of the bed, and slowly lay down until he fell completely asleep. His heavy breathing filled the room, transforming the air into a symphony of snores that resonated like a running engine. "Wow," I whispered to myself, staring at his sleepy figure. "Now I'm left with the food served." However, despite the momentary disappointment, a feeling of resigned acceptance washed over me. "But hey," I said to myself, as I settled next to him in bed, "happiness is not just this." And with that comforting thought, I closed my eyes, letting the soft murmur of the night envelop us in its embrace, knowing that our love was more than a fleeting moment, it was a constant in our lives, even in the most unexpected and mundane moments. The sun was barely filtering timidly through the curtains when I woke up. Like so many other mornings, routine called me with insistent whispers, reminding me of my obligations. I had to go to work early, and as usual, wake up my husband so he could also go do his daily chores. But that morning, something was off. My hand sought the familiar warmth of my husband's body, but found only the cold surface of the empty sheets. A slight uneasiness settled in my chest as I sat up, taking in the mess in the room. With silent steps I headed towards the bathroom, where I found my husband sitting on the edge of the bathtub, staring into space. His usually serene face was shadowed by an expression of discomfort. "Are you okay, honey?" I asked. He looked up at me, his tired eyes reflecting a storm of emotions. "No," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "I have a hangover like from here on the other side of the world," he confessed sincerely while laughing a little. "Well, honey, you can stay then, because I have to go now." He nodded silently, his eyes still cloudy from the effects of the previous night. With a lump in my throat, I said goodbye and left. 10 minutes later, as I drove through the streets, a thought forced its way into my mind with the force of a revelation. I had forgotten a crucial detail, the procedures to pass on the house to my daughter. The need to resolve this matter became a palpable urgency, a compelling reason to turn around and return home. I turned the wheel and headed back towards the house. I really wanted to fix things with my daughter, so that she would have peace just like me. I opened the door as usual, but something caught my attention as I entered. I heard laughter in my daughter's room. I put the keys on the living room table and walked slowly to the room. At that point I heard my husband's voice say, "Honey, you really are a very good actress. Your mother told me yesterday that she was thinking of leaving this house to you, because she didn't want you and me to continue arguing. You know, I feel a little bad because she is my mother, but what do I do if my heart demands you?" My daughter responded, "But tell me the truth, did they do that last night?" "Not at all. I pretended to be drunk and fell asleep," my husband answered. "Well, you know that I was also acting and it turned out well, because your mother agreed. And fell asleep too." Me with my heart in my hand, with a dry and bitter mouth, I walked closer to the half-open door. My legs and hands were shaking, and my saliva was stuck in my throat. I didn't understand what was happening, I didn't imagine anything about it, and even less about my daughter. I managed to see when my daughter's nightgown slid off, remaining on the floor. I covered my mouth to avoid screaming, because my pain was too intense. Then I wiped away my tears, took a deep breath, and pushed the door hard. My husband jumped out of bed and my daughter covered herself with the first thing she found. I pushed them out to the street. That morning the pain took over me, twisting me inside, love, trust and loyalty, everything fell apart in an instant. I stared into space wondering what I had done to deserve such betrayal. The sunlight hid from me, and became an ocean of tears in which I was shipwrecked, searching for answers in the silence of my pain. I stayed 2 days without leaving the house, I didn't eat anything solid, I just drank and drank until I was tired. I changed my phone number so I would no longer see the number of the person who lived with me. For 2 years. Although I don't really know how long they did that behind my back. The thing is that my daughter came to look for me last night to apologize, and to beg me to give her the small apartment to live in, because she told me that what she earns is not enough to pay rent, since that man, upon seeing her with nothing, left her alone. Now I don't know what to do, because in the end I think that I am the one who was to blame for bringing the man to live in my house. Maybe it would have been better if I left from the beginning to live somewhere else. What do you think I should do? It's okay to give my daughter the apartment, or should I wait a little longer? I want to thank you for listening and spending time on my stories, and before saying goodbye, I want to recommend that you subscribe to my channel and activate the bell, without forgetting to press your thumb up, as a sign that you liked it. A big hug from your friend Lucy, until next time.